The debate over whether or not to close Guantanamo Bay is about much more than the facility itself. It is a debate over how the U.S. and its allies are conducting the war on terrorism. If the U.S. concedes that its actions in Guantanamo Bay are such that they warrant closing the facility, how can the U.S. defend helping other facilities that are out there? And if the United States cannot house and interrogate suspected terrorists, how can it prosecute the global war on terrorism? Jack Spencer from the Heritage Foundation of Terrorism. This debate over whether or not to close Guantanamo Bay is a monumental debate. It really is the safety of our country. If you look right here, can anyone tell me what this is? 9/11, that's right. The World Trade Centers were bombed by terrorism. If we close Guantanamo Bay, we could have a second 9/11. Guantanamo Bay is very effective in defending our country because detainees who are stationed there are interrogated and questioned as the whereabouts of the Taliban, Al-Qaeda, and possible attempts on attack on the United States of America. Guantanamo Bay was opened in 2002 as a prison camp to interrogate terrorists. It was opened in response to 9/11. If we close Guantanamo Bay, we could have another 9/11. The government wants to close Guantanamo Bay because of suspected torture. But I ask you, why should we care? Aren't our lives in this room worth the life of a tortured terrorist? Tim, would you rather die or have a terrorist not be tortured?
I prefer the terrorists to be tortured instead.
Exactly. Everyone in the United States of America would say the exact same thing. Why are we jeopardizing our lives for the well-being of terrorists? It doesn't make sense. The three reasons that we should keep Guantanamo Bay open is the first one: if we close Guantanamo Bay, we will allow terrorists to run free and return to other terrorist groups where they can jeopardize our national security and the safety of American soldiers. 2, we will lose the chance to obtain valuable information from the terrorists. And 3, it'll send a message to terrorist groups showing that we are weak and we do not hold the crime of terrorizing our country to the punishment of death. If we close Guantanamo Bay, we will allow terrorists to run free. 90% of the terrorists in Guantanamo Bay will be released, and 10% of the most dangerous will be kept on U.S. soil for extra interrogations. What we are doing here is jeopardizing U.S. soldiers. My brother is a United States soldier, and he fought for 6 years in the Iraqi War. He came home a couple months ago, and during his time there, he helped to capture 6 Iraqi soldiers and sent them to Guantanamo Bay. The 6 years that my brother spent there are now worth nothing. All 6 of those soldiers will go home. How do we repay our soldiers? Is this how we repay them? Is it worth it? Really? Donald Rumsfeld, the former U.S. Secretary of Defense, says, "We shouldn't close Guantanamo. We have several hundred terrorists, bad people that if they were back on the battlefield, would try to kill Americans. That's just a fact." Also, when asked, Dick Cheney, former United States Vice President, said, "It's a vital facility. The people there are bad people that we picked up on the battlefield, primarily in Afghanistan. They're terrorists. They're bomb makers. They're facilitators of terror. They're members of Al-Qaeda and the Taliban. For the most part, if you let them out, they'll go back to trying to kill Americans." The most key factor in these quotes is that if we release Guantanamo Bay detainees, they will go back to killing Americans. That's just a fact. That's why they're there in the first place, for killing Americans. Those who disagree, I'd like to introduce you to Abdallah Salih al-Ajami. He was the terrorist in the Easter bombing a couple years ago. After being released from Guantanamo Bay, he was held there for 4 years, mind you. He went to an Iraqi army outpost and blew it up. He drove a truck containing 5,000 to 10,000 explosives there on Easter Sunday and blew it up. 13 Iraqi soldiers were killed, 9 American soldiers, and 42 others were wounded. This guy was held in Guantanamo Bay for 4 years. What about the people who have been there for 8 years? How are they going to extract revenge upon Americans? Are they going to blow up, say, the Empire State Building? The White House? Could they blow up this school? They could if they wanted to. We are jeopardizing our national security by letting them free. What can we expect them to do if they are set free? The second reason that we should keep Guantanamo Bay open is we can use it to obtain information. Guantanamo Bay has been successful in the past for the reason that it's not held on U.S. soil. If we were to bring the 10% of terrorists who are going to be kept for extra questioning onto U.S. soil, the second their foot touches land, they are guaranteed the right to trial by jury, they are guaranteed the right to remain silent. All these are guaranteed under the Fifth Amendment. Why do they deserve that right? They are jeopardizing us. They want to kill us, and we give them the right to remain silent. We give them the right to freedom, the right to safety. Why? We need to obtain information about Al-Qaeda's whereabouts. We don't need to give them the right to safety or well-being. It has been effective in the past and can be effective in the future. We are still at war. We need information. On Thursday, February 17th, 2010, American forces captured Mullah Abdul Ghani Barada. This is a monumental step. He is the Taliban's second in command. Imagine the information we could obtain from him. Taliban whereabouts, where they're going to attack next. The second in command. He knows almost everything about what the Taliban is planning. But Guantanamo Bay is going to be closed. So, he now holds the right to remain silent. He now holds the right to a trial by jury. We have no way of getting information from him unless he decides to sing. No way at all. Also, I don't know how many of you remember, but on Christmas Day, a Chicago flight was attempted bombing by the Christmas bomber, who had bombs sewn into his underwear. Upon his capture, a couple days afterwards, he started giving information. Now, luckily, this man decided to give information. But imagine if he hadn't. We have obtained valuable information from him. But if he had decided to remain silent, since we did not hold him in Guantanamo Bay, we would now know nothing about possible attacks in the future. And all American lives would be in jeopardy. The third reason is the power of fear. If we close Guantanamo Bay, we'll be sending a message to the terrorists that we do not hold the crime of terrorism to the high esteem that we should. We should hold it to the death penalty. We should hold it to punishable by death. That's what they want anyway. They want to be martyrs. They want to die for their cause. They want to die for killing Americans. And we want to give them the right to trial by jury. We want to give them the right to a lifetime in prison, where they can be held safe and comfortable, or release them and send them back to killing more Americans. We need to strike fear in these people. It's the only way that we can show them that we are not going to tolerate terrorism anymore. Guantanamo Bay needs to be open so that terrorists have something to fear. In conclusion, if we close Guantanamo Bay, we will be allowing dangerous terrorists to be released and sent back to killing Americans, and pose a threat to our national security. Also, closing Guantanamo Bay will let us lose the chance to get valuable information. And finally, it will show terrorist groups that we are weak and we do not hold the crime of terrorism to the high esteem that it should be. Proof of how effective Guantanamo Bay is that there have been 3 major attempts of terrorism in the last 8 years. That's pretty effective. It just shows how good Guantanamo Bay is.
To Dr. Rittenhouse's office, please.
Also, if you think about it, what we're doing here is rewarding terrorists. We're rewarding them for the crime of terrorism. Seth, do you think that terrorists should be rewarded for trying to kill us?
Mr. Baker's office.
No,
Charles
exactly.
Munger, Jeremy
So why are we?
Tyler
Making a punishment for a crime of terrorism less extreme is just encouraging terrorism. We are at war, and we need to remember that. Just remember, this could happen again if we close Guantanamo Bay. We could face a second 9/11. Thank you.